Hello and welcome to episode 75 of the True to Life podcast. Today I'm joined by Ivy Watts. She's a former Division II All-American track and field athlete who competed at an elite level, but also battled some mental health struggles. And that inevitably was the transition to her life after sports. And she's here to speak with us about mental health strategies for student athletes, as well as her journey as a student athlete. So, Ivy, so excited to have you with us here today. Could you start off by first just saying hello and talk to me about what got you started is in track and field.
Yeah, amazing. Well, I'm so excited to be here. And yeah, hi everybody who's listening. I started running track when I was 8 years old. I started doing club track. I think my parents, put me in every sport possible, just like most parents do in the beginning. And track was just the one that I continued to gravitate towards. It was easy for me because I was fast and I wasn't coordinated in any other sport. So it worked out for me. So I started running track when I was 8. I grew up in Massachusetts and then continued running in high school, and then was able to get to the collegiate level at University of New Haven in Connecticut. And yeah, I was a sprinter. I ran the 400 for the most part.
Mm, awesome. So, what do you think was the most challenging part for you as a student athlete in college?
Yeah, I struggled so much with anxiety and like this deep need to be perfect. And because being at a Division II college, there was just so much pressure. I mean, all college athletics experience this, no matter what division you're in. But my coaches put so much pressure on us just really to be perfect and to meet all of these certain standards, especially as a track athlete. It's so individualized and you're chasing after like a particular time and it's down to like the hundredths of a second.
Mm,
And so much of your self-worth gets tied to that. And so I think just that pressure from day one walking in that my coach put on me and that I put on myself as well was really hard to navigate when I already had this overwhelming anxiety and this deep desire to be perfect. So I felt like I was just constantly always falling short. I think that was really difficult for me. And then just also being a college athlete, like just managing athletics, academics, trying to have a
mhm.
personal life and just never really having space to discover who I was outside of being an athlete. Like it was just I was Ivy, the track athlete, and that was it. So I feel like all of those parts made it a really complicated journey as a student athlete.
Mm. Yeah, so you mentioned like times being super important, and I've had the opportunity to talk to a few people that are in track and field, and that's something that definitely comes up. And yeah, like tying your worth and your significance and your importance to those times and your performance on the field um is very difficult. Was that something that you felt like you specifically struggled with, or was that like kind of across the team? Was that just like the pressure that coach was putting on everybody, or were you specifically someone that coach focused on a little bit more?
Yeah, so when I got to University of New Haven, the big time that we like put everything into was running 54 seconds in the 400. And for me, that mattered so much because when my coach recruited me, I really loved how he had helped an athlete who was there before me go from 60 seconds down to 54 seconds. And she was like a four-time All-American. She was like a national champion. So I was like, okay, like I want to be like her, and I know you can help me to get there. So that just became like 54 seconds was like all we talked about.
Mm,
And he definitely did it with other athletes as well. But I think it was just something about like the way that I internalized 54 seconds to be perfection, to be self-worth, to be I'm a failure if I don't reach it.
mm,
It did seem like it weighed on me more. However, looking back at that time, like I was so much in my own bubble because I didn't think anyone could recognize that I was struggling. Nobody could recognize that I was struggling. And also mental health just wasn't talked about at
mm-hmm,
all. And so if my other teammates were struggling with like putting their self-worth into a time, we weren't talking about it. Like we could maybe see we were upset after a race if you didn't run that well, but it wasn't like how much you were ruminating and obsessing over it in your dorm room later. But I know like in my one-on-one meetings with my coach, like we were always talking about, okay, this is what you need to do to change your form here. You need to get out of the blocks faster here so that you can run that 54 seconds. And there was such a missing piece of what are you saying to yourself in the blocks? How are you taking care of yourself and your mental health? Like it was just a completely
mm,
separate piece of just, or that wasn't even a piece. It was just completely focused in on let's make sure that you are athletically ready to go. And I think that was definitely a huge deficit for me and for my other teammates, even though it wasn't talked about.
mm. Wow. I mean, it's a tough place to be. I mean, you feel like you can't like talk to those things about what you guys are going through. And one thing that kind of came up when you're speaking about that was like the idea of the external success and achieving all these great things on the outside, but then still battling with through struggles and hardships on the inside. So um, for student athletes. And something that I've actually struggled with too a little bit is, being an overachiever, maybe in the classroom, having a podcast, having, a small business to run, being a student athlete, all these great things that you look at from the outside looking in. But then on the inside, that inside that no one else sees, there's some days that maybe feel more isolated or lonely or not having a social connection or social outlet or things like that. And that's like the internal reality versus what everyone else sees. So do you have any, now that you're a little bit more removed from that, what would have been like your advice or your words that you would want to give to yourself back in college of like how to go through those times?
Yeah. I think the biggest thing I just wish I had done differently was just like given myself grace and like
Mm-hmm.
allowed myself just to have more fun with the process because I mean, I think you can probably imagine this, being a senior now, it's like it just goes by so quickly all of a sudden
Yeah.
you wake up and you're trying to think about what's going to happen for you after college and I just wish that I had allowed myself to just know that no matter what time I ran or didn't run, that like I was still enough, that I was still worthy. And it's like my self-worth didn't depend on what I accomplished. And I wish that looking back, like I had found the strength to speak up and know that it didn't mean that I mean, no one's perfect, right? But that was my goal at the time. But no, that doesn't mean that like being imperfect is a bad thing or that I'm weak if I speak up and say something. And I think that, through the past, 10 years now since I've graduated, I've found so much strength in being vulnerable
Mm-hmm.
and really being able to see like it is okay to struggle and the goal isn't to be perfect. And yes, you can have all of these accomplishments on the outside, but you can still be going through stuff because we're
Mm-hmm.
humans and we all experience relationships or financial struggles or tests or whatever it is that you get stressed out about. And I just wish that I had known that I could have talked about it and that there were tools I could have used. Like I could have taken space for myself and my self-care versus like constantly pushing, trying to produce, trying to impress my coach or, meet the
Mm-hmm.
standard or feel good enough in all these spaces. Like just knowing that it was okay to struggle, but it was also okay to do something about it.
So like how do student athletes like how do we identify or put our finger on that because part of the struggle can be not wanting to let coach down or not let other people down, but also it's like something that I always go back to is like in order to show up for others, you have to, first show up for yourself and pour into yourself. So that's kind of something a little bit of a balancing act. Like, do you have any advice or words for like how to identify when it's time to pay yourself more attention? It's obviously it's day to day,
Yeah.
but yeah, are there any signs like or things like to be aware of or to look at?
Yeah. I love this question because I think it can be answered in two different ways. And right, there's like the logical way, which is definitely the signs. You're having a hard time getting out of bed in the morning. You're struggling to eat, struggling to take a shower. You're feeling really disconnected from your sport when you used to love going and practicing, being with your teammates. You want to really isolate and withdraw. You're just feeling like anxious about everything to the point where you can't get through your day. But also, what my message really comes through is that you don't have to wait until you're at that point where you're feeling like so anxious and so overwhelmed to start taking care of yourself. And what I think is actually the better way is that even on the day when, you've won the conference championship and you've gotten that personal record and you feel like on top of the world, like that's also one of the best opportunities to make sure you're still taking care of yourself. Because the more that you do it, even when you're feeling good, the more you're going to know the tools that help you when you're not feeling that good. The more that your body, your brain just begins to like expect it. Like, oh, it's an expectation to take care of myself. Like every day I get up and I journal, or every day I meditate, or every day I stick my head outside, even if it's cold or rainy, and just allow myself to get the reset of nature. Like that practice, I think, is really powerful. And so there's like the logical of like, yeah, I might be feeling off. I should do something. And also like, I should take care of myself at all times. And then the third piece of it too is, if you're struggling, it doesn't have to be like clinically diagnosed as a mental health disorder. Like if you're just stressed out about an upcoming test or, you want to ask someone out that you've been eyeing for a long time and that's giving you anxiety, like you can talk about these things. Like there is a friend or a professional on campus that you can and should talk to about. So, like just the power of knowing that like you don't have to wait and whatever you're going through matters and is worthy. So, that would be my big message of like the two sides of the coin there.
And so don't wait to hit crisis mode to start trying to solve the issues.
Exactly, exactly.
Mm. Yeah, I think that tends to be what happens is like at least for me, I know earlier on in college, like I would push myself to the exhaustion and then pass out and just be dead. Or even in high school too, like push, and then like my body would just force me to take breaks or take resets, which is it's not sustainable. And if you actually you do the math on that, you're less productive that because you
Yeah.
work, but then you need to take like a week off or you need to take 4 days off just to completely reset that like then you're losing time as opposed to like every single day. I know, uh, on short form content, there's one that stands out to me. It's like consistency isn't like 100% every single day. It's it might be 20% this day, 40 this day, and then it's spread out. It's spread out across the course of the week, as opposed to
Right.
thinking that you need to give it 100% every single day, and that's consistency. It's like it's just a constant effort, like throughout the days, which gets hard, which is it's hard, and it's something that I think I'm still learning. So it's not easy.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. No, I agree with that. And I think too that like kind of reminds me of something that I do in all of my workshops in the beginning is we do this battery percentage check-in of like
Hmm.
where you're at today from 0 to 100%. And it's I think that's just like a really good and beautiful tool to take as well, just like an easy, quick check-in with yourself throughout the day, right? Like not every day is going to be 100%, not every moment's going to be 100%. And when you can like check in with yourself, like, yeah, I am feeling like I'm at a 25% today. What do I need to help me to maybe get to that 35% today? Because it's not about getting to that 100%. It's about allowing yourself to see, okay, how can I feel even just a little bit better so I can be a little bit more productive? And like you said, not like work, past that exhaustion and then be like completely like
Hmm.
not able to function in for days and days. So if you can just like take that moment to check in, like, how am I feeling and what do I need? And I think as student athletes, it's so easy to be like, well, I don't have time.
Hmm.
I got to be at a 6 a.m. practice, then I got 9 a.m.
Hmm.
lift, and I got a 10 o'clock class. And, it's just constant. But like, can you just find that one moment to pause and give yourself whatever it might be that you need? So it's like, if I need a hug, can you give yourself a hug in that moment? Like, if I need to talk to somebody, can you text a friend real quick and text them throughout the day about what you're going through? Like, can you just take a moment? Or one of the things I always like to say is like, in between classes, when you're walking to your next class, like instead of pulling out social media or checking your emails or whatever it is, or trying to squeeze in a last quick homework assignment, like, can you just focus on that walk in between classes and like feeling your feet on the ground if that's accessible to you? So it's like these small moments that really do make a big difference that can allow you to get into that next classroom, that test, that practice, whatever it is, just feeling a little bit more centered, a little bit more grounded versus being like really stuck in that 10% that you might have been in before you walked into that space.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, in those little moments in time too, it's like you have 5 minutes in between a class. You think that like your brain's relaxing when you go on social media or you check your email for a second, but really that's just flooding the gates even more. That's such a good point because you don't know if the phone's away and you might be able to see someone or say hi in passing, or like you might be able to have like a moment of social connection too, which can do a lot. You don't even know, just like giving like a smile or mutual exchange can really might be extreme, but change the course of the day. Because like there's been times in the
Absolutely.
morning that um having like a positive interaction with someone that I wouldn't normally have can just make me feel so much better about myself and just my outlook on the rest of the day. Is like, oh, like I was seen, I was heard. Like there was, as opposed to going on social media, going on emails, going on your phone. That's just that's taking you away from where your feet are. I think that's such a good point. Is like focusing on your feet touching the ground, and that's such a more natural way to flow throughout the day. And I don't think
Yeah,
we do that
yeah.
enough. I know for me, I get stuck in the cycle.
Absolutely. Me too. Too. It's so easy to. It's so easy to. I mean, everything that we do is on our phone. So it's so easy to just be like, oh, sent that text. Okay, now it's happening on TikTok or Instagram or
Hmm.
whatever you're on. And I think it's so easy. And then I think, like you said, people see it as, oh, I'm turning my brain off, but really you're often just like dissociating from what's really
Mhm.
going on. And so, maybe you still will look at social media. It's not like, okay, it has to be all or nothing, but can you just take a moment, right? And I love what you said of connection with other people. And it's so true, especially when we think about mental health and we think about student athletes and all that you all have on your plate and how the pressures, the expectations, the overwhelm can affect someone so much. And unfortunately, like suicide rates are so high for student athletes. The act of kindness, of saying hello, of giving a
Mhm.
compliment, of giving a high five, of checking in, like you said, can help someone to feel seen and heard for someone who might not have otherwise felt like they could have gotten through their day. Like so, yeah, putting down the phone and like looking up and interacting with yourself and the world around you can be so mutually beneficial. Like I love that you said that.
So one thing that you mentioned earlier that I wanted to circle back on was asking for help when you need to. So take student athletes, yes, but just as people as a whole, I know that people sometimes have a hard time asking for help because they don't want to seem incompetent or they don't want to seem like they don't have the answers or don't know what to do. So I think that's definitely part of it. But um, on your side, have you seen any other reasons like why people don't ask for help and just how to make it overall just a more it's just it'd be more part of our DNA? Because I think when I'm asked, so it's funny. Like when someone asks me for help, I don't mind. Like I'd love helping or being useful, helpful, but I don't. Maybe not everyone's not necessarily like that necessarily. So taking that out of it, why do you think it's hard for people to ask for help? And what do you
Yeah,
think we can do about that, just to make a better, more helpful community?
absolutely. Yeah. So I think unfortunately, although the stigma is has reduced a ton since I started this work 7 years ago, it still exists for people. Even if, you can go on social media, back to social media, you can go on social media and get like so much information about like, yeah, it's so good to use your voice and it's okay to not be okay and all of these like really positive messages. But internally, there's still a lot of shame that we feel as individuals to speak up for ourselves. And I think so much of that is just like ingrained in us from society, from culture, from our families, from what our parents believe and what their parents believed.
Mm-hmm.
And even though where there's progress, there can still be like that little nudge of a feeling of like, oh no, I can just handle this on my own. It's not that big of a deal. I've gotten through worse. Like I can just figure it out. Like, or just like the push through mentality that our culture has, just like keep pushing. Right. And like that's a sign of strength to just keep pushing. Like, let's see how strong you can be to just push through this. Or often I hear too is like I just don't want to be a burden on somebody else. So it's just better just to suck it up and to deal with it. But unfortunately, like all of that mentality is what unfortunately just makes your mental health challenges worse over time and just makes them build and build and build. And that's exactly what happened for me struggling in silence with my mental health for my entire life. And I think one of the best things to do with recognizing around your voice is it is the most powerful tool that you have to be able to speak up and reach out for that help. And it's not a sign of weakness. It's the strongest thing that you can do to say, I'm not okay. And I think the other piece too is that there is the fear that someone won't understand. So it feels like too much effort. And I get how that's scary and I get how that can feel like exhausting, but it's challenging that mindset that no one will understand because there always is someone who's going to at least try to understand. And that's where it can be helpful to have a professional, like going to the counseling center, finding a therapist, which can take some time to find someone who's a right fit for you. But that person who's trained to listen and give you tools and advocate for you in that space can sometimes be more helpful than a friend who might not have the space, the time, the energy in that moment to understand and then make you feel bad about even speaking up in the first place. Not to devalue friendships and the way that we
Mm-hmm.
rely on each other in that space, but it's so important. Like, even if you do speak up for yourself, you find the strength and you speak up and you don't feel like you got the support that you wanted, knowing that you are still worthy of trying again and that there is somebody who wants to help you. So, I would encourage people to, make an appointment with the counseling center, with a therapist off campus if that feels good for them. But just knowing that once they start taking off like the layers of the mask that we hide behind, no matter how surface level you might start. So, whether it's I'm stressed about a relationship issue. I'm stressed about school. I'm fearful about what's coming for me after college. Like just taking like one layer off the mask. And the more that you use your voice, even at the surface level, the more you get comfortable in being seen and the deeper you can start to go to figure out why that problem exists for you so you can actually start to heal from it and it doesn't have power over you anymore. Yeah, getting therapy was like the best decision I ever made for myself. It saved my life in so many ways when I was struggling, then I didn't feel like I was going to make it through. And so I'm such an advocate for getting the help that you need and it's accessible. It's available. There's someone that wants to help you. And so again, like I said earlier, no matter what the struggle is, no matter how big or small it is to you or to somebody else, like you deserve to talk to somebody and see the other side of the pain you're experiencing.
Mm. To piggyback on that, my university has free counseling services. I know not every school has that, but um, a lot of universities do have some form of counseling services. And just to double click on the therapy being very impactful. In my last session with my counselor at the university, he told me that, and without me realizing it, that I over the course of the semester completed 15 continuous sessions over 15 weeks. And
Wow.
he said that level of consistency, um, it also just directly tied with, in my mind, one of my best semester in college so far was this past semester. I mean,
Yeah.
it's maybe small sample size, but it's because it's the only semester that I've ever had 15 consecutive sessions like that. But it
Yeah.
it really did make an impact. It made a difference. Like I felt like I was better served to show up, when I'm out coaching or when I'm on the court playing or when I'm in class, socially, being able to connect with people, make relationships again.
Yeah.
Because my junior year, I was very, I almost like self isolated myself, because I was living off campus for the first time. Um, and I did kind of self isolate for a little bit. Like I was still doing all my work and all my, important stuff, but in terms of like
Mhm.
the social connection, I totally took myself away. But the senior year and with the therapy, it's like you don't know like what's there, like you said, until you start peeling the layers
Yeah.
back, and
Yeah.
then it
Yeah.
starts to become clear. But having that space, realizing there's people there for you, is important. But if it's not even a therapist, I mean, what would you recommend for people that can't find a therapist or counselor outlet? Because I want to make sure we're inclusive of all. Like, what do you think is best course of action if you're not able to get to those, like a licensed professional, if you will?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so I think anybody that's in your circle that you feel safe with, so whether that's a parent, whether that is a coach if you're an athlete, or a professor, a mentor on campus that you might have, or an advisor. And even though I made that comment about friends before, friends can be very helpful, right? Just someone to vent to, just to like the biggest piece in like just using your voice is like if you don't, it's just gonna sit on your chest. It's gonna sit on your chest, it's gonna sit on your chest. It's gonna affect how you
Mm,
show up in the classroom. It's gonna affect how you show up in all areas of your life. So release it. Like just get it out. And maybe you're like, I can't talk to anybody that all of these options feel inaccessible to me. Journal about it, get it out in some way. So journal about how you're feeling. It is not professional help. It is a tool to be able to get that off your chest so it
hmm.
doesn't have all that power over you. So journaling about it, taking any form of self-care. If you're in that space where you're like, I don't know if I should talk to somebody, I don't know if it's a big enough problem, just taking space to have that consistency in a self-care tool for yourself is going to make a difference for you as you're starting to build that courage to taking that next step and getting help.
So, Ivy, one thing that comes up for me, and I know a lot of student athletes or high achieving people that have like high achieving aspirations come to, is that we make a change, we're working on that change, and things are going good for a week, 2 weeks, and then there's some kind of setback, something happens, something goes off plan. And how do you respond in that moment? Like, you're doing so good, you're building on this momentum, but then you make one wrong choice here, or some kind of setback comes, and then not letting that completely derail you. It's like, obviously, in an ideal world, you should get back on the horse and you keep going, but sometimes in the moment it's harder than that. So do you have any thoughts for that? If like you're on the right path, you feel like you're doing the right things, but something unforeseen happens, what's like the any tips to get us back on track?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say, especially from an athletic perspective, like, can you look at it as if you are in the middle of a game or competition and you make a mistake? What do you typically do? You're able to, even if you're maybe still in your head, you're able to somehow bounce back, right? And that is resilience. And so, what I would say to do is is A, see that you're stronger and more resilient than you know, and B, what I like to call a resilience journal. So writing down all the times in the past that you thought that you couldn't get through, whether they're related to school, athletics, your personal life, and yet you did, and what you did to get through them. And so recognizing that even if you have a step back, it's not a setback, it's not a failure. And you have the opportunity to keep moving forward because you've done it so many times before, even if it was subconsciously. And so, maybe you, for example, like wanted to journal every single day for the semester and you do it 2 weeks straight. And then, like you said, something happens and
Hmm.
it takes you off course, right? It is okay to be frustrated about that, but it's also okay to say, okay, a step back, but I'm not stuck in this setback. What are some of the steps I need to do to allow myself to be able to say, okay, I'm more resilient than I know, and I can start back up again tomorrow. Tomorrow can be day one, or I can just say it's day 15. Like I don't have to have all of this pressure on myself to make it look perfect. It's like for most people who set a goal to do something, for, 30, 60, 90 days straight or whatever, there are going to be moments that you're not doing it perfectly. But the more that you can give yourself grace and compassion and just say, okay, like I messed up. I wasn't as good about this as I wanted to be, but I know that I'm worthy of trying again. Like that's something I always say to myself, like this goal wasn't met. Yeah, that can feel not great, but I'm worthy of trying again. And so just allowing yourself to be permission to start over and over again. So I know that's kind of like high level, but that would be like that mindset piece means so much when you're moving through these different challenges.
But I think you snuck in like a super tangible one, a tangible thing that you can do in that resilience journal. Cause I think that
Yeah.
gives you a catalog to look back at all these things that you have overcome in the past. Like that's how confidence is built through preparation, it's through like having, seen that you've done it before. So being able to flip back on, October 5th of 2025, I overcame this, and you're able to just see all these things, all these examples. Um, yeah, it can be super impactful. I've never thought of doing something like that. That was something I might try. Um,
Yeah, give it a
uh,
try.
the other one that comes up when talking about this type of stuff is like knowing what actions you need to implement to be the person that you want to be and to reach what it is that you want, like what you need to do, but something's holding you back and you're having a hard time identifying like what that thing is. Or maybe you do know deep down but you still haven't made the flip or made the change. And do you have any thoughts on how to like make that change or make that flip? I mean, first you need to know what the change is. Like, I don't know if that's, it's a writing, is it talking about the issue more, communicating with people, but most of the time I feel like we know what we need to do. It's like we're not doing it. It's like the work that you're not ready to put in quite yet. Um, yeah, but I think we're capable of it. I mean, do you have any thoughts on how to like how to combat that?
Yeah. So oftentimes there's often a block or we will feel stuck and I think you said this so perfectly here is like we need to be able to recognize what that block or stuckness is.
Hmm.
And I think a lot of times we recognize like that's a pattern that we've had in many other areas of our lives that will keep us in that space. Um, so I would say, I definitely have experience before in business, definitely as a student athlete, which I was
Mm-hmm.
not successful in working through many of those blocks. I'm a really big advocate when we think about the blocks and the stuckness that we have around like positive affirmations and self-talk. And so really, I think really importantly dialing in on what is the block that you have and writing down all the affirmations that are the opposite of that to help to rewire your brain to see the different
Mm-hmm.
message in that. And then starting to write down based off all these positive affirmations and this block, like the 3 to 5 steps that you, in an ideal situation, right, the highest version of yourself that you would take if there was no fear, if there's like
Mm-hmm.
nothing, no barriers at all. What are those 3 to 5 steps that you can take? And then taking a sub step of that first step that you would need to take. Like, can you just make, I always say, like, can you just lean in 1% into the unknown, like just 1%. So what is that small sub step that you can take that allows you to see, okay, yes, this block exists, but I also have these affirmations that I can work on, which then just reminds me of, in addition to the resilience journal, it's also helpful to write down like all of the strengths that you already have within you,
Mm-hmm.
right? The strengths that you just already have that you were born with that are continued to be cultivated throughout your life. And so as you take that 1% small sub step, leaning into those strengths that you already have to make sure that you can see, okay, yes, this fear is really big, but the strength that I have is so much bigger. And the more that you can do that, the more that you can almost train yourself to see, okay, when these blocks come, I don't have to be ruled by them. Like I can choose a different story and path for myself.
I love all like the tangible steps that we can that were taken from these. It's amazing. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so last few questions here. Why did you choose, you mentioned earlier about your voice being so powerful, but why did you choose to get into speaking and get into being like a mental health advocate as your transition after sports?
Yeah, absolutely. So after struggling in silence so long with, the anxiety and depression and lack of self-worth, and even struggling after college and really losing my identity and struggling with, unfortunately, with suicidal ideation, I really wanted to figure out once I got help for myself through therapy, how I could just change the narrative around mental health. I just don't want anyone to struggle in silence like I did. And I want people to have the tools and I want people to feel less alone and to get the help that they deserve. And so it's one of those things where I never thought I'd be public speaking.
Hmm.
It definitely was not on my bingo board, but it was one of those things where my passion just spoke so much bigger than my fear.
Hmm.
And I really just wanted to help others in their own journey with their mental health. So that's what led me to start speaking. And it was just natural to do it with student athletes, being an athlete myself. And
Hmm.
yeah, just really, really helping them to see, right? Like the strength, the talents that you have as an athlete, like you can pour that same energy into your mental wellness. And it's been such a beautiful and rewarding journey to help so many people across the globe.
Absolutely. So what do you think strength means to you now?
Good question. I think strength means to me showing up every day as I am. And that is a pretty loaded thing because as I am can be showing up like feeling pretty miserable. As I am could be showing up feeling joyful and excited and ready to speak to a bunch of student athletes or, to get some work done. I think strength is just being like fully authentically myself
Mm.
and in that being vulnerable with every step of the way. I've gone through so many life challenges since leaving my time as a student athlete, and I just think that I am in this space where strength is, yeah, just being all of me and feeling every single emotion, knowing it's like just that is strength,
Hmm.
feeling it all.
Mm.
Yeah.
So good. So I have three rapid fire questions for you. The first one is, what's one word for who you were as an athlete?
One word for who I was as an athlete. Oh, that's hard. Let's see. Um, I'm not good with one words. You said rapid fire. Now I'm like, I will take
No, so
45 minutes to
we're
answer this
not.
question.
It's funny. Or it can be like a short sentence fragment. It doesn't have to be one word. Like if you had to summarize like your yeah, who do you think you were as an athlete? Like taking just as an athlete, like what do you think would be the your little phrase or little blip?
Hmm. I would say I was fast, but
Hmm.
uh this is probably the worst answer, so you can edit all of this. But you
No,
can say,
it's on.
um, uh, I I was fast, but I was scared. Like that was really my time as a student
That no,
athlete. Yeah.
that's on. We're all about having honest, being authentic. I love it. Second
Yeah.
one is another one word. You're gonna love it. One word for who you are now.
Ooh, powerful.
You had that one right there. You had that vote in the chamber. That's awesome. Okay. Last one is finish this line. Life got lighter when I stopped.
Being so hard on myself.
Hmm,
Yeah.
so good. That ties it all together. Ties it all
Yeah,
back.
it does.
Ivy, thank you so much for the time today. Scheduling this. Sometimes just you never know when you just cold DM or cold reach out to someone. So I appreciate you getting back to me, filling out my little form, and taking the time to speak with me today and try to highlight some pieces from your story. It's so many great things to share, so many tangible steps to follow to tackle the mental health, and probably could have talked here for another few hours because you definitely know your stuff. So I appreciate the time and thank you for coming on and sharing your story.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me. This is great.
Awesome. So that's a wrap for episode 75 of the True to Life podcast. Ivy's links will be available in the episode notes, so make sure to follow her there, as well as her website, where you can book her for linking and for speaking. So make sure to check that out, and remember to like, comment, and share the show. It's the number one way to grow a podcast, through sharing it. So if you think that anything that was talked about in this episode would be beneficial for people listening out there, please send it to them. It would mean the world to me. Thank you so much, and we're back here next time.